Hi friends, so today I'll be doing a video on the chain adjustment, that is tightening and loosening on any motorbike, but I'll be using the KTM Duke 390 today, and my friend is helping me out on shooting this video, else usually it's me with the GoPro and the helmet. And luckily KTM has provided all the tools that you need to adjust your chain. What we need is, of course, a spanner to loosen the nut of the wheel, and we need two more uh, tools. I'll let you know. All of these come with the KTM kit. Every motorbike could have different size requirements, so you can check it according to your motorbike specifications. But I'll give you a general idea on how to tighten the chain and loosen it. There are a few points that we need to follow. Point number one, we need to check if the chain is loose or tight. How do we check it? Well, it goes with a basic thing you would generally understand, just by touching the chain and moving it up and down. If it is loose, the play would be just a bit too much. In this case, it is not very loose, this chain, but it is slightly on the looser side. I would say just about 20% or 15%. But I would tighten it a little bit and get it to more or less a perfect situation. And in case your chain is too tight, how you can figure it out is you just have to move the motorbike, get to the handle, move the motorbike to the back and turn the handle left or right. Then you would hear a sound. It would be a high tension kind of a sound, which would be like, the chain is under stress. It would say king, when you're moving the motorbike. So that is when the chain is too tight. And also you would understand when the play is very little, there wouldn't be much play at all. So where when you're trying to move the chain up, it wouldn't move much. So that is when the chain is too tight. And when it's too loose, when you're riding the motorbike, the chain cannot get onto the sprocket easily. The engaging of the sprocket on the chain, that would not be happening well. So you would hear some kind of a sound which goes like, it's a chuck chuck kind of a sound when you're riding the motorbike. So that is a worst case situation. Your chain is really loose. So here, first thing we got to do is, in this case, my chain is slightly loose, and I need to determine a point. Every chain has a tightest spot and the loosest spot. Here, I have put my motorbike on a paddock stand, and I will be spinning the wheel slowly, and every rotation of the wheel, I will be pushing the chain all the way up to see, is it the tightest spot. I need to find the tightest spot here. All right, so this seems pretty fine. This looks to be the tightest spot because I've already spun the wheel all around, but let me do that for you anyway. I'm just marking it here with my, usually you can use a chalk or something, but I'll get to this area. Yeah, this seems to be the tightest spot here. Why we need to find the tightest spot is because based on the tightest spot, we need to adjust the chain. We need to tighten it or loosen it based on the tightest spot. All right, so first step is, of course, checking the chain if it's loose or tight, and then finding the tightest spot, and then loosening the wheel nut. Let us do that. And the wheel nut is usually pretty tight, so we gotta push it down. Down is loose and pulling it up is tightening it. The same way, right is tighten and left is loosening it. And I've already loosened this a little bit. However, if in case it's too tight and you're not able to push it down with your hand, you can always use your foot and gradually push it down this way. Yeah, gradually, don't kick it, but yeah. Now we don't have to remove the nut out of the wheel, remember that. Okay, just loosen it a little. Oh, it's still pretty tight. Okay, this should be good enough. All right. And now let me give you a briefing on what we need to do now. You see these, you see this nut here, this nut, and there's a bolt. All right. If this bolt moves out and pushes this area out, that will tighten the chain. And in case we move it in, that is losing the chain. All right. So in this case, as my chain is slightly loose, I need to first loosen this nut and then push this bolt out. All right. And remember, go by half a turn every time, not more than half a turn, because one turn would be just a bit too much. You can over tighten your chain. And when you're doing this, you need to do on both the sides, left side and right side of the motorbike. And how do you check if the wheel is aligned? Because if you do too many turns this side and if you don't match the turns equally on that side, remember you got to count your turns also of the nut. And if you don't do it equally, then the wheel would not be aligned. It can go to left or right, and it's not good for riding. So here, every motorbike would have some kind of a marking. I'm just trying to show that to you. You see this marking here? And even inside, there is another marking. You got to match this marking to the other side. So basically, try to have the same kind of alignment on left and right side. So now, take the big one. Okay. We need a 14 number here to loosen this nut. Without loosening this nut, this bolt will not move either ways. So loosen this a little bit, that's good enough, and hold it with the same tool. All right, take half a turn at a time. Yes, half. And let me check the alignment here. Okay, and let me tighten this back. Oh, it's moving again. Yeah. So this one should not move. And this is 10 number here. All right. And fine, we go to the other side. And do the same thing. Loosen this big one, and we are going to, so that would be bringing it out half a turn. This looks fine. Let me check the alignment. And now tighten this one. Of course, when you're tightening this one, hold this up with the other one so it does not move. This is done. And now let me check the alignment here. there are four markings here, and first two are out, and the edge is touching the just about out second one. So friends, I have tightened the chain by doing the procedure of number one, checking if the chain is tight or loose. Number two, loosening the wheel nut. Number three, loosening the this nut, and then getting this bolt, pushing it towards the outer side. All right, I've done it on both the sides, and the chain is pretty tight now. See that? This is tight enough. And how do you check if the wheel is aligned? You keep it on a paddock stand and just spin it to see if it is spinning fine or if it's kind of any misalignment. This looks okay. This spins fine. And remember, we tighten the chain now. After loosening this nut, we push this bolt out. So we don't have to do anything after that. However, if you're loosening the chain, then when you loosen it, this bolt would go backwards, and that would create a gap here. All right, and that gap should be, what you should do is, when you loosen this nut and get this bolt backwards, the gap, the way you can clear is it, of course, one is you can hit the wheel from behind. When you hit it, this area would get closer. And other one is just spin it, just spin the rear wheel and hit the rear brake. If you do that, the wheel will come in front and close that gap, just this way. All right, and just make sure there's no gap between this bolt and this area. That is loosening it. And we're pretty much done. All that we have to do is, tighten this wheel nut back. So it's up, that is right side. Just make sure you don't put some crazy amount of pressure, because it's not good to over tighten it. It just has to be tight enough. Keep going, keep going. Yeah, a little bit more, I guess. When you're tightening it, do not put your leg and push it down. That would be just too much force on it. Just feel it with your hand. Yep, I think that is good enough. Now try to loosen it. You'll understand if it's tight enough or not. Yeah, that's good enough. I'm not gonna tighten it anymore. Just checking it one last time. Yeah, good. So that is it, friends. I know it's not easy just to learn it from one video, but do write to me and I'll let you know on more precise information on how to do this. And the best way to learn it is when you take your motorbike to service at the service station. Ask the person to display it to you, and it takes a few times, 2 or 3 times, to understand all the points and why we have to do a few things, and I'm sure you can learn it. It's very important because just to tighten the chain, you don't have to go to the service center, and if you're on a long ride, you can do it on your own. It's a pretty simple procedure. You just have to learn it. All right, that's it. Have a good day. Bye bye.